Good evening, Life Group leaders. This is a coaching video to set you up for the final Life Group night of the Grow series. And just so you know, this is in your email as well. But next week, if you're still meeting, what you can do is have a bit of a social get-together, a community building night, or you can go get stuck into something that We Are Durban has suggested, or you can do another Life Group night around any subject or topic that you feel is really important for your group. So whichever you decide. That's next week. For now, we're talking about the topic of perseverance. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have a life group where people get to look at what perseverance actually is, and we'll talk about that in a second. But then more than that, at the end, you want to dive down into people's hearts and their lives at the moment and find out where they're struggling to persevere. We've got some questions and a little bit of a survey that will help you do that. And then we hope that tonight you'll end on your life group, you'll end by praying for one another in areas where people are struggling to persevere, because we think this is a really timely word for the church, that there's a lot of people in your life groups who are struggling to persevere in different situations, and we want to set them up to be able to do that really well. Now, the first thing we're going to do to leverage perseverance is redefine it. What you should know is that perseverance is not a oh no kind of thing. It's actually a gift God gives us, and He gives us a whole lot of the fruits of His Spirit to be able to persevere well. So if you go to the book of Galatians and look at the fruits of the Spirit, you'll see things like love and joy and peace and kindness that come along with things like self-control and patience and faithfulness and goodness. Goodness being the action towards doing good deeds. Now, a lot of people find themselves on one side of this equation, either always pursuing the happy-go-lucky side of things or kind of gritting your teeth. But the whole picture of the fruit of the Spirit is what perseverance is. We can be faithful with joy. We can have self-control with peace. We can have goodness with love. It all mixes together, and we don't want people thinking that perseverance is a horrible thing that they have to do. And we also don't want people not persevering and taking quick fixes and making bad decisions and messing up things like relationships and family and careers because they haven't got God's picture for perseverance. So we're hoping that tonight you'll help them along that journey to going, flip, I actually want to persevere, and God has enabled me to do so. So the first thing we're doing is getting them to look at the fruits of the Spirit and rate themselves with how they're doing. Now, this is not to bring guilt or to make them feel bad about stuff, but this is an opportunity to go, hey, God, search my heart. I want to know where I'm doing well and where I'm not doing well. And so don't condemn and don't look at the negative areas and be like, oh, you need to ship up, but really encourage people. In fact, the whole of tonight, don't go towards instructing people and condemning people and making them feel guilty for where they are. Extend a lot of grace and a lot of love and help them to realize that God is going to help them persevere out of that situation they're in. Once they've done that survey, they're going to talk to the group about where they're doing well and about where they're struggling. Now, in that first question, it'll be pretty easy. It's an opportunity for people to share testimony of where God has helped them to be faithful and to persevere. But when they get to the sharing about where they're struggling to persevere and areas where they're not doing well, you want to be really sensitive to the vulnerability in the room. Now, we got some suggestions for how you do that. If you've got a smallish group or not a whole lot of other strong people, we suggest you keeping the group together. But there are some options for the second half of tonight when you get to question 2. You can also split it in half, guys and girls, if you've got 2 leaders who would be able to do that sort of thing, or just in half to make the numbers a bit smaller. If that suits you, you're welcome to do it. If you've got a group with a few strong people who could lead and who could pray well, you might want to have pockets of 3 or 4 people talking about areas where they're struggling to persevere. Because the kind of stuff that come up in this question is, man, I'm really battling to persevere in my marriage, in my home life, in my work, in my finances. I'm really struggling to trust God with healing or with providing for me or with coming through for me. Now, those are big deal topics, and we want people to talk about them, but we don't want them to feel helpless and judged. We want them to feel safe. So by the end of that question, what we're going to do is get you to pray for one another and trust that God would give us the gift of persevering, because although it's a decision we can make, we can choose to persevere. It's only by the grace of God and by the fruit of His Spirit, the enabling of His Holy Spirit, that we can persevere with faithfulness and love and with patience and joy. And that's what we want for your people. So we hope you have a great night. If you've got any questions, shout. Otherwise, enjoy yourselves.